Congresswoman Loretta Sanchez successfully managed to offend both Native Americans and good sense. Here is the California Democrat describing a call from a constituent who was looking to support her in her Senate campaign. The explanation, for some reason, included stereotyping.
He says, I come from the Indian American community. I'm thinking, great. He goes, when can we meet? So I'm going to his office thinking that I'm going to go meet with, right? Because he said Indian American.
Sanchez apologized, saying, quote, "It's hard to put yourself out there and to do what leaders need to do day in and day out. And yes, sooner or later we make mistakes." Well, joining us tonight to assess those mistakes, National Review investigative reporter Jillian K. Melcher, Democratic strategist, Fox News political analyst Julie Roginski. Good to have you both here. I'd say that it is tough being out there, and somebody does say something, but if you're out there that much, you forgive her?
It just is absolutely staggering to me that she didn't know better. I mean, she's a public figure. How did she not see that this was going to be culturally insensitive and possibly a problem? I would imagine that is the first filter to go into place.
Julie?
Well, we're out there every day probably saying stupid things on TV, but you don't have it in you, and I don't have it in me to say stupid stuff like that because it's not in my head. I don't make racial stereotypes because they don't occur to me to make.
You're not wired that way.
I'm not wired that way, and that's the problem there, that obviously she is wired that way. It's insane.
It is. Do you think this is going to cost her her Senate bid?
I think it was going to cost her Senate bid anyway. I mean, Kamala Harris is going to be the next senator from California, I believe, and I'm not sure whether this was a quixotic quest on the part of Congresswoman Sanchez, but it certainly doesn't help.
You notice we're ruling out the Republican candidate.
California, my friend.
California. We've got Democrat versus Democrat. But what I think is so interesting about this story in particular is that the left has fueled this culture where it is not only a personal virtue, but a civic virtue to be offended by everything. Mm-hmm. And this beast that they created is now kind of biting them, and I think that's fascinating.
You know, even as I was saying tonight to the audience that she had said something offensive, she said something insulting, is really what it is. I mean, offensive has become the term of art. It was a stupid, insensitive insult. And she's getting the blowback that she deserves for being insulting.
Yeah, it's poor judgment. And I mean, that's what...
Well, speaking of poor judgment, we have other examples to share with you tonight. Chris Christie's foreign policy, is that good judgment or bad?
Well, I'm old enough to remember 6 months ago when Chris Christie said that Vladimir Putin would never dare to take Crimea if Governor Christie were president because of Governor Christie's, he'd know better because Governor Christie was going to presumably, boardwalk with an ice cream cone, which is what Governor Christie's known to be. It's a reality. It happened a couple summers ago down the Jersey Shore. So, he chased after a guy who was apparently, he claims, bullying him. Governor Christie, I think, is grasping at straws. This is a guy who went from being the front runner to suddenly being behind Donald Trump in the polls. And so, he's grasping at straws. Good luck to him, but he's not going to be the nominee.
The Republicans have got all of these candidates. Do you feel that the field is enhanced by having Christie in it?
I still haven't forgiven him for not running last time. I thought that was his moment. I pinned a lot of hopes on him, and he didn't run, so I'm a little bitter still. But I think this is a smart move.
We have to learn to let go, Jillian.
Let go a little bit. But I think this is a smart move for him politically because you really see this debate playing out in the Republican Party, an isolationist wing versus a very hawkish wing. I think he's staking out that hawkish wing and hoping that that becomes more of an issue, and that's probably smart politics.
Well, smart politics, Stephanopoulos not disclosing his Clinton ties. Now, I have to be honest with you, I'm a little jaded on this. Stephanopoulos, we all know, is a senior assistant to the President of the United States, who happened to be a Democrat, Bill Clinton. He went from politics straight into the ABC Easy Pass to anchordom. Who didn't know?
Look, first and foremost, the Clinton Global Initiative had a lot of Republicans and a lot of corporate people give money, and also, including Mitt Romney spoke before their board. I believe Laura Bush did. What I don't understand is why Stephanopoulos just didn't disclose when he was interviewing Peter Schweitzer, the author of Clinton Cash.
That's the big deal.
That's the big deal. Had he disclosed, I think he would have been okay because you are giving to charity.
Well, but
he didn't.
He really tried to rake Peter over the coals. I mean, it was to say it was aggressive is to trivialize. Yeah, he was hostile.
Yeah, I think it was downright brutal, and I think that now he's put himself in a situation by not disclosing that, and then, as Schweitzer suggested today, not fully disclosing how deep his involvement was in the foundation, where his credibility is really under fire. I think it would have been the honest and ethical thing for him to do, to be much more transparent with his viewers and let them sort it out.
JayZ supporting anti-police demonstrators, bailing them out. Are you outraged?
No, actually good for JayZ.
Really?
Yes. I mean, it depends who he's bailing out. But look, I have a big problem with the bail system in this country in general. If you and I got busted tomorrow, chances are we probably make bail. A lot of people who are poor can't make bail. So, you know, there's
those bikers out in Waco.
Like
those son of a guns.
Well, you know, I'm the ones that are left alive. But look.
Come on, I'm not asking you about reforming the bail system. I'm asking you about the judgment of finding this cause. I mean, what we need are some leaders who are talking about the real issues. Instead, the implication here is clearly that he believes in anti-police rhetoric and these demonstrations.
Are you looking at JayZ and Beyonce to be leaders, or are you looking at JayZ and Beyonce to advance whatever their cause is? I'm not looking for them for leadership. I mean, they're
so
not
you're
elected.
Indifferent to the question.
I actually think they've been pretty good role models, and I respect them for that. With this thing about them bailing out, I think my frustration is that I don't have enough information about it. So they're stating out this as a cause. Good for them. Go out there and let us know why you're stating this out as a cause. And by the way, I'd like to know who they bailed out, because I think in Baltimore, there's a case that the police were too aggressive, not only with, you know, people, but the actual protesters.
Speaking of things we probably don't know enough about, where were they too aggressive? Which police were too aggressive?
Baltimore.
Which event?
You know, I think with the protests, there was question about who was being arrested, whether the police response was proportionate. And I think, you know, with JayZ, I would like to know who he was bailing out. I would like to know if it was peaceful protesters. I would like to know if it was people who were actually being violent and destructive.
And I hope we can count on his financial assistance for all demonstrations going forward. I hope. Jillian K. Melcher and Julie Rogensky, thank you both for being here.
Thanks.
Time for a quick look at our online poll results. We ask whether you believe Chirac is an appropriate title for a movie about black-on-black violence in Chicago. 62% of you said yes. We will take that answer and try to assimilate it, synthesize it, and come up with an appropriate response here. Time for a few of your comments. Dennis tweeted me to say the lack of talent is by far the most glaring characteristic of the Obama administration. There have never been so many rank amateurs in the White House. Ann wrote on my Facebook page, I can't imagine the people of America voting for another Bush or Clinton for president, even after the disaster that is Barack Obama. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. That's it for us tonight. Coming here tomorrow will be our guest, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander Admiral James Stavridis. Thanks for being with us tonight. Good night from New York.